and I'm coming to you this morning with some breaking live coverage, breaking news, very sad. First of all, let me say um, we are in 2025. Happy New Year, 2025. All right. Um, January the 1st, 2025. Last night was New Year's. The world was celebrating. The world was bringing in and ushering in a new year, 2025. And sorry to say that as I woke up this morning, I just woke up an hour ago, to sad news in New Orleans, Louisiana, a town that I know very well because I've been there many times. For New Year's Eve, there was a attack on the city, on the streets of Bourbon Street, a well-known street in New Orleans. Um, before we get started, let me just put up my disclaimer. All right. Um, put up my disclaimer, and I do pray for all the families involved, all the families that have loved ones that was unalive during this tragic event, and all the families that have people that are injured. Understand there is 10 people unalived, and there is up to 35 or more people that are injured. I do pray for those families. My prayers go out to them. And let me just get the house rules in order. All right. I'm going to get the house rules in order first, and then I'll welcome my guests in the chat. Okay. To keep the channel um, monitor in the algorithm, can I have everybody go ahead and hit that like button? Please hit that like button coming in because this will be an ongoing coverage throughout the day. And subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed. And thank you for doing those things. Now we're going to go ahead and get on with the matter at hand. We just celebrated a new year, 2025. And then in New Orleans, Louisiana, there was tragedy unfolding on New Year's Eve, crowded on Bourbon Street. Bourbon Street never sleeps. Shops and bars are open 24 hours a day. And we have a mad person that decided to drive his truck around the barricades into the crowd and plow down people, innocent people that are having fun. So I'm going to go ahead and put the video on. But before I put that video on, let me welcome Sweet Tea. Thank you, Sweet Tea, for being here. Welcome for being here. Sweet Tea, um, before I put the video on, if you just want to come up and just say Happy New Year's or just say anything, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes just to say anything. Then I'll drop you back down and we're going to play this ongoing coverage for the rest of today. So that means there won't be any breaks. It's just going to play throughout the day. But if you want to come up and say Happy New Year's or 2025 and just say how you feel, I'll drop you back down. I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes just to say anything that you would like. And then we're going to drop back down and let the ongoing coverage continue for the rest of today. All right. I'll just drop it. If you want to just say, come up and just say how you feel about today. I won't be having anybody to stay because this would just be playing throughout the day, live coverage. I did drop the thumbnail if you, True T, if you just want to come up and say Happy New Year's, Happy 2025, or say thing to anybody out there about what's going how you feel about what just happened? Okay, thank you, Sweet Tea, for coming up. The floor is yours.
You're welcome, Pinky. Happy New Year, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come up. And I'm just blessed to see another year, as we all should be. Just thank God for that. And I'm sorry to hear about what happened in New Orleans. This is my first. This is my first time hearing of that incident, but I thank you for uh, giving us this breaking news, and I'm can't wait to listen to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
happy 2025 to you. And we had a great time last night.
We did.
And sorry, while we was having a great time on our live, this was unfolding in New Orleans
Oh wow.
during New Year's Eve. The person decided to go around the barricades in his truck just to plow people down.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'll be praying for them. I try back down and just listen and listen.
Okay. All
So
right. Thank
okay,
you.
thank you,
Thank you.
Pinky.
And if
Okay,
you have anything that you want to say in between, just put it in the chat. And if you need to come up and say anything, I'll bring you up and you can drop back down. I'll do that throughout the day to people.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Thank you. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
drop back down and listen. Thank
Okay.
you.
Love you.
Love you too, Pinky.
Okay.
Bye bye.
All right. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and put this on. What's going on? It is sad. I'm going to be coming the first live coverage. We're going to do NBC News is breaking. The FBI is investigating the New Orleans car attack as act of terrorism. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that up first. We're going to be going through with several different coverages of it, of what's going on. And so the credit, that information will be down in my description box. Okay, here we go, guys. Let me do one thing first. I got it muted. I got to unmute.
Have as we continue to do our reporting and pour through this.
Tom, first off, excellent reporting, because for our viewers who are just turning in, you gave us 4 really big new nuggets that really changed the landscape of what we've been seeing. You talked about the flag, ISIS flag. 2 potential IEDs. 3, more details from the suspect. We now know he's 42-year-old U.S.-born citizen born in Texas. And 4, you mentioned that the death toll was expected to rise. On that note, Tom, and I want to go back to that flag that we're looking at here, attached to the hitch of the bed of that truck there. That was really striking to me, because I also saw, when that looked at that photo, those 4 holes in the windshield, the back windshield there, that appear to be, gunshot bullet holes that may have entered the vehicle. When you see that flag, does that give us any indication about whether or not he was working alone, or if he had known associates? And 2, Tom, do we have any, now that we have this name, do we have any indication of whether or not he'd had previous arrests, misdemeanors, felonies, anything in his record?
That's something that we're still pouring through with respect to what is referred to in law enforcement circles as suspect pedigree. Where do they come from? What's their date of birth? Do they have any active lawsuits for or against them? Do they have any sort of criminal history? That's information that we're still in the process of going through, and we'd like to do a lot of verification to get to that point. You're seeing a video of the immediate aftermath. There were, according to a video, I think that we're hopefully going to be able to show folks shortly, that's just been forwarded to me from our affiliate in New Orleans. Basically, this stops, and then there's a quick pause or two, and then a tremendous exchange of gunfire. So the bullet holes that you're seeing on the back of that car could have come from police. They could have come from police firing from the front to the back. They could have been, it's just the picture's not clear enough, could have been shots fired from the back to the front. We are told that investigators are looking into whether or not he was firing as he was driving this vehicle, that he may have been firing a gun while driving the vehicle. That's something they're looking into. We don't have that confirmed. That's going to require, obviously, a lot of work from an evidence standpoint. Clearly, some of that probably based off of eyewitnesses. We'll see if that turns out to be true, but they're at least looking into it. This idea, by the way, of flying an ISIS flag on the back of a pickup truck is something that we've seen before. Sayfullo Saipov, back in October of 2017 on Halloween, drove down the Upper West Side Highway here in New York City and conducted a terrorist attack in the name of ISIS, killing 8, injuring over a dozen. He had talked about, according to court records, the idea of actually flying an ISIS flag from the back of his truck, coincidentally also a rented pickup truck, that from a major retailer. But he talked about doing that, but thought it would attract too much attention and that the NYPD would see that and immediately try to stop him. Obviously, that's something that would certainly grab the attention of law enforcement, frankly, anybody. That flag is kind of ubiquitous in our society. So that is something that we've seen, talked about before, and that is something obviously that is of interest. The idea of driving through a crowd in vehicle ramming attacks is something that we've seen over the last decade. It's talked about in almost every single major propaganda that comes out from various terrorist organizations. And as we recently reported on NBC News Now, in a story I believe we talked about, was the idea of how terrorist organizations are now using AI to produce terrorist propaganda because it allows them to be anonymous. You have the face and the voice of it being a computer somewhere instead of being an actual person, makes it more difficult for investigators to try to determine who is behind that propaganda. So this is an evolving landscape, a reminder that as we've been reporting here at NBC News for the past 9 months, the FBI has been especially concerned about the volume of terrorism investigations and attacks and thwarted attacks. There's been a number of them. The Taylor Swift concert in Austria, the FBI and the U.S. is warning to Russian security agencies about what turned out to be a deadly attack at the Crocus concert hall there. There were several other investigations, including an election day plot here in the United States that was disrupted, in a plot involving a relative of that suspect in France that was disrupted, as well as a number of potential incidents, not all necessarily tied to terrorism, that were thwarted before the Olympics. It's been an incredibly busy year in this landscape. It is at a tempo that we have not seen before, at least not since 2014, based on the officials that work in this space that I talked to. And so this is very real and has been a real genuine threat here, I would say, for the past year of this exact type of incident. The big question going forward is, how is it possible, knowing that all the information I just shared with you is information that was public prior to this event? How is it possible that a truck was able to drive down Bourbon Street in the early morning hours on New Year's Eve, when obviously there would be a lot of people out? There are a lot of people out in that street on a Tuesday in August, let alone at this time of the year. And as we saw here in New York City last night, it would not have been possible for this attack to take place. They fill up sanitation trucks with sand, and good luck to anybody trying to get through that. So obviously serious questions will need to be asked of New Orleans authorities. Was it an issue with overtime, and did politicians not allow those type of protections go in? Was it a failure on the police department? Was it a combination of things, like it usually is? Time will tell.
Yeah. Tom, before we let you go, can I just ask one question about the victims in all this, the people who've died, the people who are still hurt and in hospitals? Because you said when we came to you that the death toll has risen, which is the worst news we could imagine. Is this because many of the injuries are very severe and we're finding out that they're passing away at the hospital?
That's exactly right. The injuries here were horrific in nature, we're told. I don't think I need, out of respect to the victims, to get into specific details that we're being told and hearing, but we do expect the next time that we get a briefing from city officials for that death toll to rise. It's not because of any lack of extreme effort by the medical community. It's just injuries are injuries, and when you're hit with a truck at that high rate of speed, and if this idea that he was in fact firing out of the truck at that time, obviously that would have added additional problems for the people that were in that crowd. Is something that law enforcement's tracking down. It's horrific, it's horrible, and obviously is going to be continued sad news, not only for the New Orleans community, but given the fact this attracts people from all over the country, we'll have to wait and see if other communities are impacted as well.
Yeah, keeping all those families in our thoughts here too. Tom Winter for us. Tom, thank you for all the reporting.
It is just after 1:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and this is what we know thus far about that deadly truck ramming attack in New Orleans that killed at least 10 people and left more than 30 others injured. We are learning more also right now about that suspect.
Yeah, if you're just joining us now, senior law enforcement officials tell NBC News that the suspect has been identified. He is 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar, who is now deceased. The FBI just confirming moments ago that he is a U.S. citizen from Texas. He was driving a Ford pickup truck that appears to have been rented, and that an ISIS flag was found on that vehicle that rammed into the Bourbon Street crowd. You see it there in the picture on the back of the tailgate. The FBI says they are working to understand whether the suspect had any associations with terrorist organizations.
Now, in half an hour, officials are set to update us on the investigation at a news press conference. Police have previously said that the suspect intentionally carried out this attack and tried to run over as many victims as he could. Police saying he was hell-bent on creating carnage. We are told that he allegedly opened fire on police and shot 2 officers after he crashed into that crowd.
Police are also trying to determine if he was firing a long gun into the crowd while he was running people over. We're told the FBI is investigating this, and we've said this again and again, as an act of terrorism.
Our NBC affiliate WDSU spoke to 2 eyewitnesses who said that they saw the moment the pickup truck plowed into a crowd of pedestrians. Take a listen to what they said.
We were coming through the intersection, and it all just happened so quickly. But the guy in the pickup truck just punched the gas and mowed over the barricade and hit a pedicab passengers. And there were just bodies and the screams. I mean, you cannot think about, unhear that. It was chaos and very, very scary.
When you saw the car, did you think anything of it at first, or did you?
No, it was the most bizarre thing, like something that you, like the least expected thing, I don't even know how he managed to maneuver that with the amount of traffic and people that were still out.
Bumper to bumper. I mean, there were people everywhere.
You said there was a lot of people?
Tons of people.
Tons of people. And cops everywhere.
The cops
there
were
were
on the corner
cops
when it ran through the
everywhere.
barricade. They were standing right there when it happened.
And when you're talking about barricade, are you talking about like those, like the metal poles right there?
Yep.
So did you see at all any of the ballards or anything like that pop up?
It was just like debris and everything, and then people. It was unreal. Just total chaos. Total chaos.
What was it? The sounds?
A huge impact. It almost sounded like a gunshot. I actually looked, and maybe we did hear that too, knowing now that the guy had ended up shooting those 2 police officers. But I remember the screeching and him gunning the car and the impact and the screams. Like I said, the screams of those girls. Yeah. I don't know that I'll be able to forget that.
I'm so sorry you guys had to go through that. You had mentioned inside that when he barricaded through, it was super loud.
Yeah, it was. It was very, very loud. It just was this huge boom.
Crunching
and crunch. Yeah. And then just the people yelling.
And you guys had just walked right across the street. Where were you guys at?
We had come from about 2 blocks down from a parking garage, the Roosevelt parking garage, and we're coming through this intersection right here on Bourbon when it happened.
From what I recall, he was in this lane and just took a hard right and punched it, is what it seemed to be like. So I don't know how he did it, because there were all the cars. It was literally 3 or 4. It's 3 lane, but there was also people parked over on the side. So it was just hectic and chaotic. I don't know how he was able to get through the barricade or whatever, get enough speed.
And there is multiple pedicab drivers and carts there. And fortunately, one of the girls that he hit her cart, she didn't have passengers, but it was the other gentleman who had passengers. That's what he hit, and they were just all on the ground. I mean,
I was just to say, so you guys saw this happen. What did you guys do next?
it was kind of like a surreal moment, and my husband, he just grabbed me and he was like, let's go, let's go, get out, let's get out of here. It was so surreal. I think we did kind of go into that fight or flight mode and chose flight in that instance, to get ourselves out of here and safe.
Oh, just devastating to hear these accounts that we're getting. Let's bring in Tim Gallagher, former FBI special agent in charge of the Newark, New Jersey office, is with us now. Tim, the FBI got involved very early on. We heard about this, in the early mornings this morning. It's being investigated as a terror attack. What key pieces of evidence are you focused on? We've got some new reporting that I don't know if you heard from Tom Winter just a short time ago. Were you able to hear that? And can you talk about what, if you were in charge at this moment, what you'd be focused on?
Yes, thanks for having me. Yeah, I heard what Tom had to say before, those key pieces of evidence. Obviously, the indicator of ISIS involvement from the flag. You're going to be drilling down on who has he been associated with, but the name itself, that's the key piece of evidence here. We're looking to see, build out his network. Who is he in contact with domestically? Who is he in contact with internationally? Potentially, are there other plots afoot out there that he may have been a part of? That's job one. Looking to nail down, is there anything else out there plot-wise that needs to be disrupted immediately? Getting legal process for all of his devices, for all of his accounts, looking to see who he was communicating with, who was funding him. These are all things that the FBI is doing with their partners as we speak.
It's interesting, Tim. I'm listening to the things you're describing, and it's what, we heard Tom's describe earlier as criminal pedigree, right? Sort of, we were talking about, were there any past criminal activities or misdemeanors, felonies, arrests, perhaps, in this person's profile? When you talk about the things that you collect, what is unique about what you collect from the digital footprint that is different from the physical evidence that investigators will be collecting on the scene?
Sure. Yeah. From the digital footprint of his, you're looking to see what sites has he been going to, what was he looking to purchase, was he doing surveillance online as to Bourbon Street, or was he going in person down there? Maybe his devices would tell you that his cell phone was pinging in that area a couple of weeks ago. That's one of the things that you'd be looking for. But you're drilling down to see, obviously there's surveillance done. He just didn't wake up and decide, I'm going to go launch this attack on Bourbon Street. There was research done in advance. And how was he doing that? And how did he know that this particular spot, could be vulnerable in the situation from what we're hearing about the bollards?
Should we be paying close attention? I assume law enforcement will be paying close attention to what Tom reported about IEDs, improvised explosive devices. I think Tom said there may have been one inside the truck, and then he mentioned potentially a couple more. How would you be handling that?
Right. Yeah. It's not. It's one thing that you have IEDs. It's another thing where they were. Right. So what's in his vehicle? Obviously, that ties directly to him. But if they found other suspicious packages, which may in fact be IEDs, are you looking to pull every piece of camera footage that you can to see, where was that? When was that item left? Who left it there? Can we identify who left it there? Was it a bag? Or was it an actual potential device? Because that's key piece of evidence here. Was it isolated to the vehicle, to the small arm fire, into that IED, or was there placement in advance? Or would there be other people? And is there a continuing danger to public safety in New Orleans as we speak?
Speaking of that public safety, Tim, the Sugar Bowl is still expected to take place tonight. We heard the superintendent basically assure people that the city was prepared for this event, still welcoming people to her city. But, from all the experience you have, if this were your family sitting there in New Orleans, preparing to go to a game like this, what would you advise? What can people take from this, and what can they do in sort of preparation for the hours that are coming, the hours ahead?
Right. Don't panic. If you see something, say something. You constantly hear that, but this is going to be one of the safest places in the planet tonight. That facility itself, the Sugar Bowl. But like when we talk about the perimeter, the outer perimeter, there could be some potential soft targets out there that if there is a continuing threat to public safety, that could be targets. So that's where if you're out there, if you see something that doesn't look right, obviously report it to law enforcement and do so immediately.
All right. Our thanks to Tim. We appreciate your analysis and you spending your time with us on this very busy day.
Thank you for having me on.
Let's bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst and former chief of police of the Seattle Police Department, Carmen Best, is with us. Carmen, we speak often, unfortunately, when there's a disaster, right? When something horrific like this happens. We were just talking with our previous guest about tonight. Given your experience as a chief of police, what is that police department in New Orleans doing right now?
Well, I have to say, Kate, that I agree with Tim wholeheartedly that it's probably going to be one of the safest venues in the city of New Orleans this evening, considering what happened over the course of the last day. There will be increased officer presence, increased vigilance at all of the stations. As many cars will be out, many police cars. They'll be working with the federal partners as well to have increased personnel on the street, reviewing all of their plans, making sure they reinforce any potentially softer targets, and making sure that it is absolutely as safe as possible. I know their chief and the superintendent